People, Deluded, I'm back again. Thank you very much for tuning back in each and every time. Now, there's not much to... Oh, apologies, people. I ain't even... Like you can see, it's a Sunday. Everything isn't patterned, and I didn't even... That's an L, man. I shot a video, and I didn't even... My last video, the other light's not on, but technology is never going to be my thing, and I really should cut this and start again and look a bit more professional, but I like the fact that you lot can see just how professionally unprofessional I can be at times, and keeps that real element there. But cracking on. Now, Arsenal, listen, FA Cup, it's been a decent run if you watch the highlights and whatnot, but nothing compares to seeing your own team play. We do that on Monday, but for now we might as well go over the nonsense transfer window, rumours, or just stuff that concerns Arsenal. I've got a couple of comments about Arteta. You know me, I'll always push the Arteta agenda, people, and propaganda any opportunity I get. But before we crack on with all of that, let me make sure I've got everything, people. Now, the first one isn't actually necessarily relevant of such to us, people, but apparently Pini Zahavi is now representing Crystal Palace winger Wilfried Zaha, according to Football Meccano. Now, he's a super agent, and again, I don't think he's going to come to Arsenal, but again, he didn't get his move. He's been trying for a season or two now to move from Crystal Palace, and it hasn't happened for him. He dug his heels in to move to Arsenal, and he's moving professional stuff, but it did affect him mentally, and he has said that for one reason or another, whoever his previous agents were unable to get him what he wants. So naturally, you're going to source someone that potentially can. Is this agent got a bit more power? Is he prepared to go to a bit more war? Is his contact books a bit more extensive? Did Zaha just want a different agent? You never know, but you'd be inclined to believe rumours are going to start again, whether that's to Arsenal, whether that's to Chelsea, or whatever. We've been linked with signing Max Aarons as well, people. The Mirror says Arsenal to battle Tottenham for Norwich starlet Max Aarons, with Mikel Arteta making 30 million star a January transfer target. The player, if he was to leave Norwich, will be loaned back to Norwich until the end of the season. Now, for Arsenal, I'm just seeing 30 million and loaning someone back. I get it. He's playing consistent games at Norwich. He's getting a good education. I really like him. He can improve in a lot of incidences. I feel defensive phases off the ball from set pieces especially. But he's very much the modern day fullback. He plays with passion. He goes forward, relatively good technically, fights for the badge. I did some research. I found that he's got Jamaican in him as well. So like Maitland-Niles, I'm always going to push the Gaza man agendas and propaganda. So for me, I've seen enough to conclude he should come to Arsenal. Apparently we're battling Spurs. Ironically, if you read up about him, he had a couple of trials at Spurs and it didn't happen for him, and he's got a lot of resilience, you know, because he was with Luton. I think there was a period he left Luton, he was trialing at clubs aimlessly, and he was just doing one-to-one kind of training with coaches and whatnot, and obviously things fell into place, but he's got a lot of resilience. I would take Max Aarons. He's young, he's English, he fits in with our philosophy and what we want to do. Obviously, I do believe with Max Aarons, with Maitland-Niles Cementer in the last two games turning a corner and playing out of his skin at right back, that might have complicated things in regards to what we want to do. But I do think Max Aarons is someone that can provide genuine competition for Bellerin, because I'm actually looking... I like Bellerin a lot. I'm always defending Bellerin. I'm looking forward to Arteta revitalising him, which Emery did at a point. But if we're honest, for a number of years now, through injuries, through whatever, Bellerin just hasn't kicked on at all, and he is quite bang average. I really love him, but defensively he's a liability at times, not really looking as good as he did in the final third. I'm looking at Arteta to really spark life back into him in that sense, but maybe similar to De Gea with no competition at goalie of evidence, really. I know Solskjaer's bigging up Romeo. Could Bellerin benefit from Max Aarons, someone that's genuinely a star ahead of you? Do you get it? Maitland-Niles right now, it's probably that, but because of the form. But that's if I'm Bellerin and that right back comes in for 30 million, I'm immediately in that dressing room sitting up, taking off my shirt, and anytime we go for 10 laps, I'm going for 11, because you should feel your spot is under threat. You should take it. Obviously, you shouldn't always take it personally like this, but if I'm a right back, if you're a centre half, right back, striker, or whatever, and your team bring in a new man in that position, obviously if it's Lionel Messi or a man's better than you and it's an evidently quality signing, it is what it is. But you should genuinely feel offended, because in grassroots days, I used to feel offended. Playing right back, there was four fullbacks at Norseman, people, in my Sunday League days. Me, I don't want to say guys, governments, Selly, and R again, another, well, Ramel. There was 4 of us, and I could play left back and right back, so it was decent. But we all had to fight. I was offended when I see next man coming, or that someone's picked ahead of me. I'm thinking, Darren, yo, you don't think I'm good enough? Like, it's almost a positive insecurity. It's like, what's wrong with man? Like, is it because how I'm passing? Like, you know what it is, and it makes you up it. So maybe that reaction could get Bellerin, and obviously, if we got 2 good right backs fighting for a spot, that's what every team has in it. Obviously, some people would say, because Barcelona are interested in Bellerin, if they come back with 50, 60 million bids, I'd come in with 45 max. You sell Bellerin, you've got Max Aarons, you reinvest, it could be something different. I'm a big fan of Max Aarons, but when I read between the lines, obviously in terms of securing a talent, it would be good, but you'd also think how much education. I think it was a good thing Saliba's still in France and developing away from the hype he would have got and the scrutiny and praise unhealthily with every good and bad game. But how much could he have developed now that Arteta's here, playing under Arteta, learning sort of thing? Do you get it? How much could Max Aarons benefit from that? And obviously mid-season, it'll probably take more than 30 million, because I do think Norwich, unless they get relegated, they'll be selling themselves short letting him go for 30 million. That's an instant 50 for me with Max Aarons. He's only going to get better. He's only going to start getting admirers in the England squad, potentially a long way away from that with Trent Arnold and Kyle Walker and probably a couple others. But it seems to be, it's going to happen for him. So they're sitting on the banker. If they get relegated, it complicates things. With him, Ben Godfrey, Jamal Lewis, it complicates things really, because if they push the move, I can't imagine any of them would want to stay in the Championship beyond having admiration for Norwich, because they get offers, people. Does it make sense to us to throw £30 million at something when we need a centre-half and they're going to be loaned back in for the end of the season? I'm not too sure. I want Max Aarons, but I'm not too sure if it's actually a thing, people. Moving away from that, and apparently clubs won't have to pay a fee for Jerome Boateng. They'll just have to cover his wages. You know, he's currently in Qatar, I believe, with Bayern Munich's first team, winter training camp. And obviously with us needing a centre-half, that obviously is of benefit. I've also come across, in fact, we'll save that. Apparently Arsenal have rejected a £10 million bid for Hendrik Mkhitaryan as well, people, from Roma. Now, obviously, he's potentially done enough to get a permanent move, people. Now, 10 million considering we got him for free and the wages he comes with. Okay, we probably can get a bit more, but potentially I think that's all up our street. It's not exactly a free transfer when you do the maths and how much you've paid him in wages and all these things, but I'm also looking at freeing up the wages, people. Potentially freeing up the wages of him, other players that are not at the club. We can do other things. So Arsenal will know what they want to do in regards to that. Apparently Thomas Lemar, in an interview, Diego Simeone has said he hasn't lived up to expectations, and he's more or less said that, you know, his agents can find a solution. And you lot know me, big fan of Thomas Lemar. If we can get a loan with an option to buy for a basement fee, I'm on that. I don't know why. Obviously, it's Atletico Madrid, but it's more or less a defensive manager. You're not going to thrive too much as an attacker unless you're in a fixed position, really, like Griezmann, like Diego Costa at a time. There weren't too many attacking players of such that excelled at Simeone. It was more the collective and the fight and the spirit. And he has learned to fight, because I remember seeing him in the France game. You could see tactically he's improved with what Simeone requires, but he just hasn't lived up to expectations. And it is a fact that Arsenal dodged the bullet with that 90 million bid. But I would take him. He's still, 24 years of age, can play in the 10, can play in the flanks, can play deep line playmaker as well, can do quite a few things. I think he's got talent there. I would listen, I want to see a centre-half first and a central midfielder, but he could be someone. And similar to Max Aarons, apparently Arsenal and Spurs are the ones primarily going for him, people. So we don't know how much truth is in that, but we'll have to see. Moving on, and there's reports of Mikel Arteta is looking to sign Hakim Ziyech this month. Ajax will let him leave for 50 million euros. Now I would take him, people. He can play through the 10, he can play on the flanks, he'd be very decent. But he's a quality player, I'd accept him, but you'd have to wonder what is going to happen then, because are we going to look to move up? It seems like Ozil's going to play a lot, and again, there's that, but there'd be Ozil, there'd be Ceballos, there'd be Hakim Ziyech, there'd be technically Emil Smith-Rowe, I believe potentially should go on loan in January. There's a lot of Joe Willock's technically playing in that creative role. There seems like that everyone can play different roles and everyone don't need to play, but it seems like there's too many grey areas. Listen, I'm not saying not to sign Hakim Ziyech. I mean, bring him to the club. Bad boy, free kick specialist, good dribbler, complements our side well. You heard even Overmars saying that Arsenal should get him last year. I would take him, but for me, I do believe we need to be looking at the centre-half position, and apparently we're going to go back for Upamecano in the summer. You've heard apparently Upamecano said he's not signing a new deal with Leipzig, so we'll see. We'll have to see exactly how that one develops, people. Really and truly. Moving away from that, apparently Mustafi has new representatives, people, and Mustafi's representatives are pushing for a meeting with the club's hierarchy as their client has had little game time this season. The German international has just changed representatives and they are keen to test the Gunners' determination to keep hold of the 27-year-old. That's from the Mirror. Now, the only reason Arsenal's stance might be a bit hardened versus the summer is because of injuries. Our hand is forced by injuries. Mustafi he has to see out this. Listen, if a right offer comes from Mustafi, take it, because like I said, wages, just simply been a flop, a very inconsistent footballer, and a walking fire hazard at best, really and truly. Mustafi, I remember the people were saying to play him this season, and he was in decent form in the little low games he was given opportunities. But like against Liverpool, like against Chelsea, anytime it matters, Mustafi will let you down. I'm not making it personal, it's a fact. Like, Mustafi should be the best defender in this team because of the hype when he came to this club, because of what we was getting. Everyone thought he was a top defender at Valencia and prior to coming to Arsenal. There's no shame with that, but now you have to whisper them sort of things there. The only reason, and to be honest, if he has got new agents and they're trying to help change his solution, then that's smart from him to use Arsenal's kind of desperation to see how much they want to keep hold of him. He's contracted until 2021. He's not 32. He needs to go somewhere he can play football and actually enjoy his football. I think he enjoys Arsenal. He's good in the change rooms. He seems like a very respected and big character in the change rooms. But at the end of the day, he's not playing too tough, and he really has no chance. Of course, Arteta, new manager, can tip the balance, and he's been on the bench a couple of times and actually came on. But he really shouldn't be playing, really. And I think Arteta's more. We don't really know who Arteta likes and doesn't like per se in this side, because it's mid-season. He really is really forced. We're not really going to see until the summer what he really wants to do, who he really wants to let go, he really wants to bring in, sort of thing. The only reason Mustafi can kind of claim to stay is because of bodies. We've got Chambers down now. We know we need a centre-half, but there's Chambers. We've only got Socrates, David Luiz. Rob Holding's been having a couple of knocks. Luiz has to stay by default. Mustafi has to stay by default. I mean, I do think Mavropanos should go out on loan because he's not, got any specific experience. But if Mustafi was to leave, then in terms of a body, Mavropanos should be able to do that. I would let Mustafi go, man, because Socrates has been in decent form, but the likes of Socrates, Luiz, Mkhitaryan, El Nene, couple of other players, you've got to move them off the wage book, and if you can get some fees, great, but we've got to, get rid of these resources and change them up and do a couple other things, people. I'm not gonna lie, the first reaction when I saw that was, how dare you? That was my first comment. But in relation to Arteta, people, Arteta propaganda, he said, in relation to the captaincy thing, he said he doesn't want no cliques in his changing rooms, by the way, people. But he said, the leadership many times is related to how this team lives together. The moment you start to see different groups, then they have leaders in these groups, but they are not shared in the best common interests of the group. And this is what I wanted to avoid. And this is why I say his game management is second to none, because you can imagine Arteta, because he can't be there all the time, but his advisors, they're always looking. He was probably found out before he took the job who is close with who, because football does get clicky. We've got to have one collective, but like you saw with Emery, when it becomes fractured, some man fighting for Emery, some man losing faith, some man didn't buy into Emery from the start of it. You get fans, because you could say the same about fans. You're never going to have everybody pulling in the same direction, and it's also about, it seems like he's got everybody on the right page, but he can't assume that. He needs to always keep his eyes and ears open, people, sort of thing. But he said, we have some leaders. Some are more leaders on the pitch, and some are more outside the pitch. Some have influence. Some have influence to players that is very necessary. We want to bring all together. I've been at clubs that have 4 or 5 captains. It's more a leadership group than captains. At the end is one guy wearing the armband, and after the team picks the leader. The moment they pick the leaders is when someone talks, if they listen, or they are looking at the roof. That is when you see. So again, it's very important from him, people. It is very important. On Arsenal as well. Apparently, in 3 games under Arteta, Torreira has made more ball recoveries than he did in 10 previous games in the Premier League under Emery this season. Now, to be fair to Emery, a lot of that, again, well, it's 10-3. There's not really anything, but I assume it's harder to make more ball recoveries when you're coming off the bench, which is Emery's fault. And again, evidently he's playing him out of position, and it isn't rocket science. You play a man in their right position, they're enjoying football again, they're excelling, they're one of the most consistent and best Arsenal players game in, game out again. And these rumours about leaving and Napoli and all these things, whether true or not, have taken a back burner. It's almost rocket science at times, people, I lie. But moving on from that, I love a final thing I liked with Arteta. He did speak about analysts as well, people, how he's got analysts to watch the games and he does it himself. But he said, the players are such privileged boys to be playing for this football club, and they have to realise it every day. And that's it, not taking it for granted. I do think when you come out of the academy, you can take playing for Arsenal for granted. Or when you've been one of these established players here for years and allowed to coast and not really be scrutinised because of the fact that Wenger was here, or Gazidez or the Kroenkes, it really created a sort of environment for complacency, which has led to mediocrity, which is why Arsenal right now isn't anything close to world class. And we're to put us nice, we are a mediocre football club. But despite the world class facilities, winning through harmony, and all the things I love about my club, we're mediocre through choices to end up here, and it's going to take a while to obviously move back into that phase, people. Arteta said, we have 3 analysts here that look a lot of the opposition. I do it myself as well. I like my assistants to look at it, but at the moment I'm focusing more on our principles, our way of playing, the way that we want to play rather than the opponent. And that's true, people. You can analyse everything you want, but you need to have your own philosophy. And Emery did all that analysing oppositions, but you never got the vibe he wanted to win a football game. Obviously, he's still looking at oppositions and places we can exploit, but it's more so core principles and philosophies. How does Arsenal Football Club want to play? How do we want to go out there from opponent? What tone do we want to set from the start to the end of the game? And these things eluded Emery. Emery had no plans beyond Kolasinac overhitting or underhitting crosses, or in the individual moments of brilliance between Lacazette and Aubameyang, either linking up with other players altogether, people. In relation to the captaincy, he also said, at the moment, everything is okay. It's not the time for me to change these things now because I haven't seen enough to make those decisions, people. When he asked in relation to Eddie going out on loan again, he said, I have to speak with him. I think the first idea was that he was going to be on loan for the rest of the season. We have to assess the situation again. At the moment, I don't know, but I'll have some answers very soon. And to be honest, that sounds like to me in that you never say never, but that sounds to me like you're going back on loan, or it might be best that you go on loan. You can stay here, you can fight, you can learn, you might get opportunities, but you was meant to be on loan for the rest of the season. Is it worth going and getting there? Because, listen, if he has another season like last season, Eddie, where he's on the cusp of first team and he's in and around and he's getting minutes, that's okay, but is he significantly going to be a better player? Listen, this is the point of his career where he doesn't need to be the finished article, but it's now, and when I say significant, that doesn't mean become a world star, but it's time to make significant strides. What I mean by significant is, in an ideal world, in August, if you was August last year to August this year now, 2020, how many professional games has he played in the Championship or whatever? 30, 40. He never had that before. That experience is going to help him. I always say to you, it's different. But way before Tammy Abraham got a proper chance at Chelsea this season, he had 60 career goals in senior football to his name. Do you get it? That's why people need to... They're a bit older, but stop comparing Arsenal and Chelsea youngers, because it's fascinating, because it's not always one approach fits all. It's not always loans, but the loans don't always help. But the main thing is experience, people. Mount, experience, Vitesse and Derby loans, hitting the ground running at Chelsea. Tammy the same. Reece James in and out the side, but playing at Wigan. And you can see that's why we're lacking a bit ferociousness when you look at Joe, Emile, Nelson to a degree, and they're a bit slower in thought, a bit more inconsistent. You get it? We need to put our arms around them and we'll get there, but it's about significant progress for a lot of these boys, and Eddie in particular. Listen, it's up to Eddie, because right now, if something happens to Aubameyang and Lacazette, there's every reason Eddie should be the third choice striker or the next in line. But I believe Martinelli's complicated matters with that. Can play on the left, but plays through the middle. Tyrese John Jules was on the bench against, was it United? So, was it United or Chelsea? It was one of them games there, I can't remember, but he might have been in there. There's obviously Balogun, who hasn't been given a sniff at first team, but you never know what could happen, really and truly. And sometimes it's a thing where Arteta's going with one striker. So if you've got Tyrese, who's your age mate more or less, you've got Tyrese, you've got Bamina Laka, who bar and milk you're not starting against, and we're only going with one striker, is it best you go to Bristol, who have been begging to have you on loan for the longest, and go and play some significant games? Apologies, people. I believe it is. I don't think there's any other transfer news of sorts, people, but we can do a little quick little run. Like I've said to you lot, according to Forza Roma, Arsenal have rejected a €10 million offer from Rome to sign Mkhitaryan on a permanent deal, people. So we'll see how that one goes. Apparently, Arsenal are concerned that Bellerin is not the same player after returning from a serious knee injury, and Aarons has been identified as having the pace and stamina required to feature for new boss Arteta. I am concerned about Bellerin. I've said it because he's stagnating, but I do think he's still a decent player, and obviously he's someone that was been named as a captain. He's someone that internally might be liked, people. I can't lie, there are rumours from some sources saying that he's actually not happy at Arsenal. I'm not speculating, don't shoot the messenger. I'm not saying it for true, but there are some that he is open to moving abroad as well, people. I don't know how true they are, but I have come across that and spoken indirectly previously. Again, don't know how valid it is. Don't shoot the messenger. If this was American police, you know me, for obvious reasons, I got my hands up, don't shoot. But I think Arteta will relish working on the Bellerins. Is his countryman. Obviously, as much as he's improved Sterling and whatnot, in the modern game, the fullbacks are vital, and you're kind of seeing that by the positions we take up in an attacking sense, off and on the ball under Arteta. And Bellerin is a natural fullback, and I do think he'll work with who he has to work with, at least until the end of the season. Bellerin has been stagnating. I don't know specifically why. It's the injuries, maybe it's a loss of hunger, maybe it's just downright just stagnating, but I don't know, man. But Bellerin hasn't looked the same player for a couple of years, but I hope it changes, people. He's spoken about Lacazette as well, and he said he had chances to put away against United. He's been really helpful in giving us a lot of options. He makes his teammates better. That's one of his biggest qualities. We know he's got some good technical play. The problem with Lacazette is that he goes through hot and cold moments scoring. I actually think a big part of his kind of lack of goal scoring or not playing to his best is because you heard that last season he was playing on a knee injury. He's had a couple injuries at the start. Did he not have surgery? And I think a lot of that set him back, and just a loss of confidence right now, people. He's not really as confident. I think the last 2 games probably instilled confidence in him, but I think it's not the same. He has said, every time he's in front of goal, normally he's so clinical. I'm disappointed he hasn't been rewarded with all the work he's done in the last 3 games, because he easily could have scored 3 or 4 goals naturally, easily. The goals will come for him naturally because he is a natural finisher. Does he need just one to go in? Anyhow, exactly. And maybe a little bit fresher legs will help as well. So maybe he needs a rest, people. He was on the bench a couple of games, but maybe it's a loss of form, loss of confidence and fatigue. And it's lovely to hear that the manager still got confidence in him, people, because it is what it is. But I mean, Lacazette's goal scoring record isn't the best at Arsenal. It's not the worst, but isn't the best. And he's got a lot of other qualities. But this is one pet peeve with Lacazette. I think he's good enough to score 20 league goals. He's a quality player. But 28 years of age, 42 goals in 105 appearances. To be fair, cannot see the statistics and whatnot. He scored 3 goals in the Premier League. In all competitions, he's hit 6 goals in 17 this season. So it's not the worst, but it's not the best. And obviously some context, he's been on the bench, been subbed in all of these things, beyond just playing poor at times. So we'll have to see if he can improve that. But I don't think there's anything more to add on that front. Obviously, get well soon, Callum Chambers. Completely off topic, but I have seen our former Arsenal player Dan Crowley scored his first goal for Birmingham, people, so that's good for him, and it's a good look, and we support our Gooners whether they're at Arsenal or away. Happy birthday to Xavi Amici as well, former Arsenal player now at Hamburg. Happy birthday to, I believe, Mark McGuinness, which is in our Arsenal academy as well, so it's been decent. Sam Greenwood at youth level has been quality. I will include these when I review the youth stuff this week, but yeah, it is what it is. On that note, it's been a pleasure. I'm going to get out of here. DG.